Everyone buzzed with excitement about the strange visitor, the first to appear in a long time. Their thoughts and rumors echoed everywhere, spreading endlessly like reverberating sounds. I heard there from the Hunters Association. What the heck is that? Is it a pet, Dad? A nearby man suddenly hatched a sinister plan. He stood at a distance, sneering at his companions. Let's take it out and sell it. Nizu was engrossed in listening to some mysterious melody. Suddenly he jolted, looking around in confusion as the melody abruptly vanished. As he scratched his ear, trying to listen more intently, from behind, a man suddenly lunged forward. He swung a wooden club, striking Nizu hard on the head. He laughed triumphantly. Got you. But the sight before him horrified him, his face paling. Nizu was still conscious, only a large lump swelling on his head. Nizu turned around, his eyes filled with rage. He swiftly snatched the wooden club from the man's hand. Nizu raised an eyebrow, his face filled with indignation. The wooden stick in the boy's hand landed squarely on Nizu. The man panicked, yelling for his companion's help. This kid's strong. Help me. Hurry. His cronies fearfully huddled to the side, assessing the situation. One of them exclaimed in astonishment. Did you hear that? The monster can talk. The other replied skeptically. Is it some kind of rare monster? The man who was hit earlier brightened, thinking of a huge profit. Isn't it just a monkey? Selling it will surely bring in a fortune. At this moment, Nizu was completely unaware of the looming danger. The boy turned his innocent, bright eyes towards the one harboring wicked intentions towards him. The two men emerged from their hiding spot, grinning sinisterly at Nizu. Selling it will definitely make us a lot of money. Nizu still didn't understand what was happening around him and stared at them in terror. The man who just attacked the boy, terrified by his immense power, hurriedly threw the stick to the ground and ran away, screaming for help. Help! Someone help me! Nizu, astonished, reached out to grab him. The man's terror escalated, his screams becoming wild and desperate. Help me! There's a monster chasing me. Nizu panicked, frantically trying to deny it. That's not true. Wait. Suddenly, a spray of crimson blood erupted before Nizu's eyes. The fleeing man had been cut down by his own two companions. Looks like you understand what we're saying, huh? The remaining companion brutally stomped on. The blood-soaked body of the man they just killed. We'll feed you. We'll let you taste exotic delicacies if you come with us. Nizu trembled with rage. I don't eat people. I'm not a monster. He roared in outrage and hatred. Estel clearly said Nizu wasn't a monster. Suddenly, something was hurled towards him at breakneck speed. A glass bottle smashed against his head, making him cry out in pain. The bottle shattered, and horrifying bright red liquid splattered everywhere. He quickly raised his hand to wipe away the terrifying liquid. The thick, red substance spread across his hand. The two thugs laughed savagely, pleased with their successful hit. A critical hit. The man laughed triumphantly, thinking he had defeated him. If you absorb this liquid, no matter how strong you are, even a monster can't stand against us. Nizu could no longer maintain his gentle demeanor. He roared furiously. His terrifying roar filled the thugs with sheer terror. Nizu suddenly underwent a complete transformation. He became bloodthirsty, baring sharp teeth, growling like a wild animal. He lunged at the two arrogant men with terrifying speed, causing them to scream in horror. A gruesome and bloody massacre erupted instantly. From inside the house, Estio heard Nizu's enraged roars. She rushed outside to see what was happening. Nizu, what's going on? She hurried towards Nizu, who was in a state of frenzy. Nizu, look at me. Estio gently approached, try to calm the trembling Nizu. Calm down. Everything will be all right. Those who angered you are gone now. Nizu growled in fury. Estio, they killed our friends, and they made me eat them. They were so cruel. His eyes welled up with tears. Estio felt her heart clench at the brutality of those people. I'm not a monster, but they threw stones at me. My eyes hurt, and I was too angry to stay calm. Estio was silent for a moment, then gently reached out, stroking Nizu and comforting him. I'm sorry for leaving you alone. Nizu gradually calmed down. He looked directly at Estio with questioning eyes. Hey, Estio, did you take off your blindfold? He curiously inquired. Don't you need to cover your eyes anymore? Estio held onto the blindfold and replied, No, I still need it. He quickly put the blindfold back on, covering his eyes. Let's go back. Soon after, he returned to the building with everyone else. Several days later, at Estio's magnificent mansion, silence reigned. Without stepping foot outside the building, Estio rested peacefully in his room. He lay there, lost in thought about the past few days. It's been 10 days since I drank that strange Nido water. Now my power is more stable, but I still can't fully control it. I need to find a way to control all of this power. He still had to wear the eye patch, despite days of rest. Suddenly, he sat bolt upright as if he had just thought of something. Estio was silent, lost in thought. He clenched his fists, crumpling the bedsheet in his grip. This was his own power, but why couldn't he control it? Bend it to his will? He needed to train to find a method. He suddenly remembered the magnificent holy temple and its mysterious inhabitants. Perhaps someone there understood the power of dragons, the power of the golden dragon, Suhanan. He fell silent, trying to push the thought away. But Kai had said that Suhanan despised the black dragons. Estio gritted his teeth, anger boiling within him at the thought. He got out of bed, his mind still racing, and left the room. Even if he hated black dragons, why wouldn't he go to the dragon world and instead try to destroy humanity? He silently decided he needed to find someone who could help. Stio urgently called out, Kai. Kai cheerfully entered the room. Did you call for me? She approached him, solicitously asking, I just got back. How are you feeling? I tiptoed in, trying my best not to disturb your sleep. Stio replied to her with a flustered look. I don't know. Suddenly, she remembered the others. Her eyes darted around the room. Alma, where is everyone? Stu gently reassured her. They'll be back soon. Kai crossed her arms, her face filled with indignation. They dare to leave you alone in this condition? Mu Bayan stood by the door, Parker beside him, both speaking coldly. We were out looking for you. He turned to Kai, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You've been gone for days. Such a useless leader. So, if you found any clues, then tell us. Kai quickly explained everything she had gathered. I have good news and bad news regarding Sahan. Which would you like to hear first? Stio made his choice. Good news, please, Kai. Kai reported the details. Sahanan has ceased his activities. It seems he's plotting to seize the position of Pope. Mu Bian crossed his arms, exclaiming in response to the news. Oh, isn't that good news? Kai turned to him, continuing, yes, it is. But this could also lead to bigger problems. She pondered somberly on the worst-case scenario. If he manages to become Pope, then even the Emperor will have a hard time controlling him. Furthermore, Sahanan will definitely try to sway the Emperor to his side. Book Gi scratched his head, confused. So, what's the problem with him becoming Pope? Am I the only one who doesn't understand? Kai enthusiastically explained to him. Sahanan isn't human. He's a dragon. Parker's eyes widened in realization. I see. But then he froze, stunned by the shocking revelation. Dragons? Kai probed. Don't you want to know more about this? Parker frantically waved his hands. No, don't tell me. I think it's best I don't know. His face paled, a look of terror washing over him. Dragons were supposed to be mythical creatures, so why do we keep encountering them? Suho spoke up, suspicion lacing his voice. So what's the bad news? Kai remained silent, handing him a piece of paper. Suho took the paper, removing his eye patch, a sneer playing on his lips. He froze as he read its contents. Kai slowly explained. Sahanan seems to have discovered Hyukryong Stella's true identity. He wants to meet you. The paper contained a few lines, a summons from Sahanan. Sayo read the following information aloud. On the divine light of the Lord shall descend upon the resting place of worthy souls, the chosen ones. On that day, I shall summon you. You will spill your own blood upon the altar and reveal your true nature. Mabian raised an eyebrow at the dubious contents of the paper. Good heavens, is this supposed to be a request? It's more like a command. So that means he'll bring him in by any means necessary, regardless of the consequences. Ahura skipped over and exclaimed in astonishment. This Suana, could he still be a minor? I can't tell if this is a plea or a poem. Kai continued to elaborate on the information she had. The divine light of the Lord. It must be the coronation ceremony of the new pope, a sacred baptism performed by God himself, not by the mortal hands of men. The moment the new pope is inaugurated, a holy light from the Lord will descend, illuminating the resting places of the chosen souls, those who are worthy of eternal salvation. This is the ultimate proof of the new pope's holiness. Mu Bien frowned in deep thought, analyzing the situation. So he intends to meet with CEO. Right when CEO officially becomes Pope, we've already accepted their request. If we refuse now, Kai stated firmly, he might even tear apart our entire guild to find CEO. She squeezed her eyes shut, sweat pouring down her face, her expression filled with anxiety, because the only emotion that Sahanin has for the Black Dragon bloodline is a deep, bone-chilling hatred. Everyone unanimously turned their gaze towards CEO, awaiting his decision. Parker suddenly spoke up, stammering, so, bloodshed, does that mean he'll die? Kai turned, carefully explaining to him. He wouldn't summon CEO all the way to the Holy Land just to do that. Instead, don't the followers of God consider killing a taboo? Kai couldn't help but express his doubt as well. He must have some secret method for dealing with style. Parker, still confused, continued to question. Then why was the captain summoned to this resting place? Mubayan was perplexed, quickly pushing those chaotic thoughts out of his head, trying to understand the thoughts of a frenzied dragon. What good would it do? I simply don't want anything to happen to my master. Parker agreed and comforted him. Don't worry too much. Looking at it from another perspective, we still have time until the decisive moment. After a moment of contemplative silence, Estel suddenly called out to Kai. He turned around seriously and replied, if we don't find a solution before the Pope's coronation ceremony, I will leave the guild. I'll leave the guild. Kai disagreed with his demand, immediately objecting. You don't have to do that. Our Znai's guild won't stand idly by and let things take a turn for the worse. You know that Estio. He suddenly fell silent for a moment. He clutched the paper tightly, his heart filled with remorse. Everyone shouldn't be put in danger just because of me. He glanced at the name written on the invitation. Actually, I've always wanted to meet him someday, even if they hate me. Thinking of the majestic image of the golden dragon, he continued, there's still the first of my kind I've ever had the chance to meet, but I don't want my choice to affect the guild. Stio put his blindfold back on, then made a proposal. I'd like to leave the guild. The guild leader pursed her lips, anxiously awaiting Kai's reaction. Estio felt a pang of sadness. She doesn't want this, he thought. Kai's cheerful face flashed in his mind. Before, I don't mind being hated by strangers. I'm used to it. But he recalled her serious expression, his resolve hardening. I want to protect her. After a moment of contemplative silence, Kai sighed and said, then there's no other way. We'll go see him. Her words took Stio completely by surprise. Kai firmly assured him, I've always told you, the Znai Society will always have your back. That means, no matter what decision you make, we'll support you completely. She pointed at Sudo, adding, because you're the leader of the Znai Society, Sudo. Her tone became serious, showing unwavering conviction in her choice. That title isn't just for show. Mubian leaned back and casually asked, we have a little free time before the inauguration ceremony, right? Kai turned to answer him. We do for now, since we finished the previous mission. So right now, we don't need our combat specialists to get involved. Mubayan spoke up, dissatisfied. How callous. Why are you so eager to kick me out of the guild? I'm currently outside my own territory, so I'm going to enjoy this to the fullest. Parker looked at him with a surprised expression, thinking to himself, I thought you already were enjoying yourself quite a bit. Kai turned his bright gaze towards Estio once again, suggesting, hey Estio, let's head back to headquarters. Estio smiled softly and nodded in agreement. The morning sky was crystal clear, the air cool and refreshing. Lush green trees stretched towards the warm morning sun. Parker looked around and sighed. Summer is almost over. Mubayan replied, indeed. I'm hoping autumn will arrive soon. Parker asked curiously, is something interesting happening in the fall? Mubayan pointed in a direction, explaining thoroughly. It's one of the biggest festivals in Rubereisen, the Autumn Leaf Festival. Parker exclaimed in surprise, the Autumn Leaf Festival? Mubayan continued, painting a picture of vibrant golden maple leaves. Exactly. Unfortunately, the Hyga clan's territory is overrun with ferocious monsters, making it less than ideal for enjoying the beauty of falling autumn leaves. Just thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel a surge of joy and excitement. When autumn comes, I want to frolic among places overflowing with fallen golden leaves and bask in the breathtaking scenery. Parker grew even more confused, thinking to himself, isn't he on his way home? Suddenly, he remembered something and exclaimed with emotion. Speaking of autumn leaves, my hometown boasts equally stunning scenery. Mubayan paused, curiously asking, Avian Village, right? Parker, his mind filled with images of lush green trees amidst steep and treacherous cliffs, nodded in confirmation. Exactly. although the village lies deep within the mountains. The more he reminisced, the more excited and enthusiastic he became. Perhaps due to its unique geographical location, the leaves there boast a vibrant array of colors, incredibly beautiful. The fruit there's also incredibly fragrant and delicious. Bayan suddenly asked with curiosity, "Do you ever miss home?" Parker took this opportunity to open up about his feelings. "I'm very content with my current life. This headquarters feels like home to me now." He beamed, a joyful smile spreading across his face. "Of course, when the holidays come around, I'll return home to be with my family and enjoy some relaxation. If you ever have the chance, I'd love for you all to visit my home." Principal Nizu was drawn into their lively conversation and added a few words of his own. Nizu wanted to go too. Parker suddenly blurted out that it might be a bit too much for him. Nizu remained enthusiastic. "No problem. Nizu could climb mountains." Parker couldn't bring himself to explain the situation clearly. He thought of the sheer, towering cliff face and gave a strained smile. It was probably steeper than he imagined. Time passed, and the setting sun painted the sky in hues of red. The golden-orange sunlight filtered through the leaves, illuminating the open ground. Wu Yan's group stopped at a certain location. By the roadside, a weathered wooden sign indicated the name of the area, Sentinel Village. Parker stared at the sign, a pensive look on his face. Despite facing countless hardships on this journey, we've finally returned to the familiar Sentinel Village. Suddenly, a resounding AI voice boomed, startling everyone. "It's the Ignis Guild." The children and Rian excitedly ran to greet them. Rian hugged Estio tightly, eagerly asking for news about Isaac. The older brother Estio deeply adored. "Did you find my father?" the boy asked excitedly, his voice full of innocence. "I've been very good waiting for you to come back. Tell me everything." Estio hesitated, unsure where to begin the story. Rian's eyes sparkled with anticipation, waiting for Estio's reply. Suddenly, Rian noticed a strange expression on Estio's face, and paused. The boy asked worriedly, "Is your eye hurt?" Estio remained silent, lost in thought. He sat down, taking the boy's hand in his, and softly said, "Ryan." Estio's voice was grave. "There's something I need to tell you." Estio slowly responded to Ryan's expectant gaze. "Your father." Everyone around fell silent as Estio recounted the story. He carefully explained Isaac's illness, describing his passing in detail. Everyone present, upon hearing the story, couldn't hold back their tears. Tears of sorrow streamed down their faces. The children who were just playing joyfully moments before now burst into tears. Ryan stood frozen, tears streaming down his face, his expression filled with horror. Witnessing this scene, Estio couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the unfortunate boy. He choked back a sob and said, "I'm sorry to have to bring you such sad news." Ryan didn't blame Estio. He shook his head, refuting his words. "Why are you apologizing?" The boy tried to force a smile. "Thank you for keeping your promise. I will definitely repay you someday." Estio was taken aback by Rion's innocent words. Suddenly, a familiar voice snapped him back to reality. Estio and his companions. Estio had left the village long ago and continued their journey. Mobian asked with concern, "Are you still worried about that boy? You seem so lost in thought." "It's been hours since we left the guard village." Estio confided, "I thought he would resent me." Mobian was surprised by his friend's thought. "Resent you? What do you mean?" Estio's expression turned somber. "Because I brought him bad news. But Rion still thanked me." Mobian turned to comfort Estio. "The boy just wanted news about his father, and you granted him that wish. He should be grateful to you." The man gently reassured Estio. "Why would he hate you?" The young man, still burdened with worry, sighed heavily. "Yes, but..." He pressed his lips together, saying nothing more, lost in thought. Sometimes, people need something to vent their hatred and resentment on. Parker looked around the bustling, crowded space. Headquarters seems a bit noisy right now. Kai seemed to understand everything perfectly. "I'm afraid this situation will continue for a while longer, because the war for the royal throne has officially begun." She pondered. The countless letters of petition that have been sent and waves of requests will continue to pour in on the captain. However, we are advised not to take sides with any faction, whether it be the princesses or the princes. Esther nodded in understanding. "I understand." Kai suddenly spoke up. "One more thing," she instructed. "Hope Sahanan's coronation ceremony will be held in the winter. Until then, Everyone is free to do as they please. Kai unexpectedly waved goodbye and quickly left. I have some business to attend to, so I'll be going now. If you need my help, just call. Kai turned abruptly and walked away. Parker hesitantly spoke up. Captain. He held a thick stack of letters, saying, I've checked them. There are a total of 88 requests addressed to you. Shall I give them to you? SDO broke out in a cold sweat at the sheer number of letters. Please filter out the requests related to the royal family. Looking at the remaining letters in the basket. After Parker had finished sorting, there were only 9 requests left. SDO leaned his head back and sighed wearily. There's still so many. He quickly grabbed the letters. Parker asked in astonishment, Hey, Captain, are you planning on getting started right now? He couldn't help but worry about SDO's health. You must still be exhausted, he urged. You should rest first. Nizu already agreed too. He gently reminded. Totally. You just got back and the work is already piling up like a mountain. Besides, we're on vacation too. How about instead of burying ourselves in work, we go on a relaxing trip? Parker quickly agreed. I completely agree, but Steer seemed to not hear a thing. Completely ignoring both of their suggestions and focused solely on examining the letters. Parker jumped, startled at being called. Yes? He raised his head to ask, Where is the headquarters kitchen area? Parker responded, dumbfounded. If it's the kitchen area, you mean where the chef works in the guild cafeteria, right? Both of them imagined the communal dining hall. Parker asked hesitantly, do you want something to eat? If so, let me get it for you. Esther quickly interjected. He held out a piece of paper. This is a request. Parker took the paper and skimmed through its contents. A request from the culinary department. This is quite unexpected. Normally, guild members don't send each other requests for help. Suddenly, the information on the screen made him freeze. I am Cheese, head of the culinary department. It seems there are 2 strange creatures that we cannot identify lurking in the kitchen. Their presence has caused a great deal of chaos and unfortunate incidents lately. Parker continued, reading aloud from the request. Captain, please tell us what is fact and what is fiction. Captain, are you going to take this mission? Stio nodded in confirmation. Yes, I don't want to pretend. Like I'm unaware of the trouble brewing within the guild. A complicated situation was brewing within the guild. Parker, understanding the implication, replied, Yes, I understand. So, because we currently have a mission, we won't be splitting up just yet, right? Suddenly, Steve spoke up. Mr. Parker, I won't be participating in this mission. His words completely astonished Parker. Stio then carefully explained. This is a mission from the culinary department. It doesn't require traveling far. There's nothing you need to worry about, Parker. Parker's eyes welled up with emotion, but Sko retrieved the request form. Everyone should rest today and start the mission tomorrow. You're on vacation, Parker. Just relax and take it easy. Parker was silent for a moment. Then he turned around, scratching his head sheepishly. I'm a little tired, but you don't have to worry about me like that. Time passed, and a new day dawned on the magnificent building. In the hallway, devoid of people, only the brisk footsteps of an AI echoed. Ma Bian walked, sighing with emotion. It's so lucky that I'm still here with you. Nizu and Suki were both barred entry because of their shaggy fur. Estro nodded in agreement. Exactly. You did well. Praised, Ma Bian beamed, his heart overflowing with joy. They both quickened their pace. Ma Bian carefully explained. Since we purposely came after lunch, it's bound to be empty inside now. Soon, they arrived at their destination. Ma Bian smiled brightly, leading the way. All right, this way. Suddenly, from the other room, a furious voice boomed. Damn it, a man roared in fury. You dare call this food? Inside the kitchen, a man was throwing a tantrum, berating the kitchen staff. Are you all insane? Ma Bian pushed open the door and entered, letting out a weary sigh. Good heavens. SDO once again had to shield his eyes, because the scene before him seemed utterly chaotic. A torrent of reprimands, filled with tension and pressure, was unfolding inside the kitchen. I sincerely hope yelling isn't a job requirement. He sharply rebuked them, his voice biting. Where's the head chef? Get out here and tell me what this dish is. Now, explain to me why I feel this searing heat on my tongue. Those in charge of the kitchen bowed their heads in shame, remorseful. We sincerely apologize. There was a slight mishap during the preparation process, but he was still not appeased. Mishap? There's a limit to how spicy something should be. Do you know my friend? Does he have a super sensitive stomach or something? He just ate this dish, passed out from the spice, and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Mubian, after hearing the whole story, finally understood the situation. The thing that made him burst into flames? At first, I thought he was just angry. But it turns out the spiciness of the dish was what made him so red. Suddenly, a powerful voice boomed. "I am the head chef here." The head chef was a large, imposing figure, completely blocking the other man from view. But then, another person appeared and declared, "No, I am the true head chef." Now, two identical head chefs stood before them, leaving S.O., who was watching from behind, deep in thought. They were the real and fake versions mentioned in the request. Immediately, the two chefs faced each other, their eyes locking in a sharp glare. "I'm the real head chef." "Humph, an imposter. How dare you ruin my masterpiece? You're the one who ruined the dish. Get this imposter out of here. I'm the real one. He's the imposter. Can't you see? This guy is the fake." Meanwhile, the young man, who had just complained about the food quality, was stunned in a speechless silence by the scene unfolding before him. Are you two twins?" Hearing this question, both chefs turned to look at each other and shouted in unison, "Don't be ridiculous. I don't have any siblings. Yes, I'm an only child." The situation descended into chaos, leaving Mobian and SDO utterly bewildered. Mobian and SDO were completely taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. Just then, the waitress turned around and looked towards Mobian and SDO. Her eyes lit up with a joyful expression. She rushed over and asked excitedly, "Are you Captain SDO?" SDO calmly replied, "Yes, I came here after receiving a request for assistance." As if seeing her savior, the young woman, eyes brimming with tears, looked at them pleadingly. Mobian asked, confused, "Hey, why are you crying? We're here to help." She burst into tears, as if all the pent-up frustration she had been holding and finally released. "Thank you both. You see, the past few days have been like living in hell. We can no longer tell what's real and what's not." Mubayan comforted her. She stopped crying and began to tell them everything from the beginning. What happened here? She choked back a sob. A few days ago, a doppelganger creature escaped from the magical research area and broke into the kitchen. Mubayan asked in astonishment, "A doppelganger?" "That's right," she replied. "It's a psychic-type monster. Its body is like a reflective mirror, able to transform into a perfect replica of anyone who looks at it. After it transforms, based solely on appearance, it's completely impossible to tell the original from a copy. It doesn't harm artificial intelligence, but it constantly ruins food. It seems to derive immense pleasure from playing pranks and getting attention." Having finished the story, she was overjoyed. "After all, thank you both sincerely for taking the time to come here. Without the captain's presence, we truly wouldn't know what to do." Unexpectedly, John Burong suddenly appeared and made a very audacious proposal. He claimed to be capable of defeating both of you. Styo, displeased with this plan, immediately voiced his objection. Meanwhile, John Burong acted friendly, waving to Ma Bian with a cheerful demeanor. "Long time no see, little girl." She coldly replied, "You're not a member. Why are you here?" Ma Bian responded calmly, "Because I was summoned by the master." Burong showed contempt, shaking his head in disapproval. "I can't understand why you would waste your abilities, serving a child like that. What a waste of a good blade." Ma Bian didn't seem bothered, laughing loudly in response. "Oh, are you saying I'm serving them well?" Burong remained indifferent, seemingly unconcerned. She then summoned her weapon, advanced towards the twins. Sensing the volatile situation, Mubayan intervened with a calming voice. "Hold on, I don't think you should get involved in this." Bai Lang, enraged, pointed her weapon at the twins, warning them, "Stay out of my business. I am an independent warrior, not affiliated with any guild. My codename is Jiang. I've been tasked with eliminating a yokai by the Bureau of Magical Research." She pointed her sword at one of the twins and demanded, "Speak. If you don't want to die, tell me who the real one is." The twin under the sword's point insisted on his authenticity. "I told you I'm the real one." Hearing this, the other twin looked at the one being threatened. Then both yelled in unison, pointing at each other, "No! He's a yokai. Don't you see? That's the yokai." Bai Lang. Witnessing this, Burong, filled with murderous intent, decided there was no other way than for both of them to die. Seeing this, the onlookers gasped in horror. "Good heavens! How can someone be so ruthless? Wait a minute. We never sent a request to her." Then they pointed at SDO, shouting, "But we did send one to him." Burong turned to SDO and asked, "Hey kid, didn't they send a request to your captain?" "This makes me even angrier, Captain. Surely you won't stop me from killing them, right?" But what's with that strange blindfold? Are you injured? STO explained. Some things happened. She pressed him with questions as STO slowly approached. So what are you going to do now? How are you going to tell what's real and what's fake? With your eyes covered like that, you can't see what's happening right in front of you. So how can you use your special mind-reading ability? Am I right? Am I right, huh? STO seemed unfazed by the taunts. He continued diligently with his task. Please, both of you extend your hands. They were stunned, bewildered, exchanging glances in utter astonishment. Both looked at each other with suspicion. After a moment of hesitation, they reluctantly offered their hands to STO. Bjorn stood behind, watching STO with worry etched on his face. Wait, can he read their minds? Just by holding their hands? STO concentrated intensely, trying to sense something. He silently listened to the thoughts swirling within each chef's mind. Oh my God, a person with telepathic abilities? Tell everyone I'm the real one. Please listen to my heart. STO immediately guessed that this person was the true chef, but I can't sense anything from this person. It's as if his mind is completely blank. The other chefs spoke up impatiently. Do you know who the real one is now? It's me. I'm the real one. Reveal the truth. Captain Burang wasn't doing much better. She immediately asked about the situation. Style answered her. Yes, I understand. The true identity of Pomai, the head of the culinary department, will be revealed when we arrive at the Department of Magical Research. Everyone, let's go. With that, Styo turned to Burang and relayed a message. Eliminating these monsters is not the only solution. We can apprehend these parasitic creatures and return them to their confinement. Burang felt irritated at being lectured by Styo. This damn brat. Meanwhile, at the Department of Magical Research, atop the bell tower of a massive building. Inside, guards were carrying out their duties. Mabian observed his surroundings. I thought this place was the most secure of all the guild's headquarters, at least of all the ones I've seen. Does this mean they're carrying out some incredibly important secret plot? Just then, Estro's group arrived and encountered the guards. Greetings, guild leader. What brings you to this facility? So replied, I've captured the imposter that the Magic Research Department lost. Hearing this, they immediately led Saw and the group down to the basement. The head of Magic Research is on the first basement level. A staircase suddenly appeared, leading everyone downwards. Mubian descended, his eyes wide with astonishment. Is this entire staircase also made of magic? They even have long-distance communication devices. Hearing this, Styo turned to Mubian and asked, What's a long-distance communication device? Barong spoke up, his voice filled with explanation. This is a magic marble used for surveillance. It's a three-dimensional object, allowing someone on the other side to observe everything happening here. It was also used for unmanned expeditions during the war. STO asked curiously, Where is the other side? She replied, Anywhere the telemarble can send a magical signal to. STO felt uneasy and asked, Does that mean someone is watching us? Mabian added, They're probably always monitoring this area. I've seen these stones all over the buildings and on the ceilings. Here. STO was surprised. How do you know so much about this? Mew looked at him, grinned innocently, and explained, It's also installed in my house, so I know a little about it. But everything here is so much grander and more magnificent. Suddenly, a refined voice called out from behind the door. Thank you for your kind words, Duke Haiga. I am Swan. She had been waiting to greet them. Oh, have I addressed you with the correct title, sir? Yes, thank you, Duke Haiga. Mabian replied politely. You can address me as you did the first time. Swan maintained a respectful demeanor. Oh, my apologies. I've never learned the proper etiquette when addressing nobility since I was born. She suddenly gasped. Oh my. Look at me, I've lost my focus again. Swan hurriedly stepped forward and took Styo's hand. It's an honor to meet you, Chairman. I'm the manager of this department, Swan Book. Please just call me Swan. Estel, surprised, could only reply, Hello, I'm Estel. Swan beamed, her face full of excitement. I know you. I've been following your career. Puff, puff, puff. Oh, it's not just that. I'm actually a huge fan of yours. Your ability to read minds is truly extraordinary. I like to test that ability. Conduct a few small experiments. No, not experiments. I mean, I want to study it. She seems rather flustered, doesn't she? Esther is sweating nervously. I see. Then Suin continues the greeting. Ah yes, welcome to Kong as well. Thank you for accepting the request. She's as cold as ever. Shut up. I wouldn't have agreed if I knew I'd run into that guild leader. Suin asks, Why don't you like him? Bairang just fumes silently. She turns away and sniffs loudly. Then Ma Bian gets straight to the point. So you're the one who requested the capture of the body double. What? Suan asks in surprise. Yes, I asked Kong to handle this. Honestly, I thought it was long dead. I can't believe it's still alive and kicking. But thankfully, you caught it without causing too much damage. Mu Bian waved, letting out a long sigh of relief. Oh my goodness, if you weren't here, our kitchen would have turned into a horrific bloodbath. Swan, with an excited expression, replied without hesitation, no problem. There's no way to completely destroy them anyway. A substitute is essentially a type of spirit, a spiritual entity originating from the tangible world. Mu Bian looked skeptical. I'm just asking to be sure. But are you conducting soul creation experiments here? Swan, startled, replied, Huh? Of course not. It would be amazing if we could do that. But this was a complete accident. We were just testing whether an ancient mirror exhibited any supernatural phenomena, contained any new magic, when those substitutes suddenly appeared from within the mirror. Hearing this, SDO understood the issue. That's why I couldn't read their thoughts. Swan continued, addressing the guildmaster. We will take this spirit. SDO curiously asked, what are you going to do with the mirror's spirit? Swan paused in thought for a moment before answering. It doesn't have a contract with anyone, and it can't be destroyed. We will seal it back inside the mirror. SDO was surprised. Seal it, she explained. Spirits, or rather, incorporeal entities, have a strong connection to the object they were born from. Therefore, using this characteristic, we will imprison it back within the mirror. If it senses the mirror is about to be broken, it won't dare to leave again. Ma Bian seemed to feel it was a bit cruel and spoke up. Do you have to resort to such drastic measures? Swan firmly replied, tapping the mirror lightly. If we don't, it will continue to cause havoc everywhere. This is the only way to protect both the spirit and everyone here. Perhaps, if it finds a suitable person to make a contract with, a talented archmage will appear. And that could be a major turning point for this world. Then, she gently tapped the mirror's surface and commanded, all right, return to where you belong, before your precious home is reduced to ashes. Upon hearing this, one of the two chefs suddenly transformed. From the top of his head to his arms, he began to decompose. Styo removed his blindfold, curiously observing the scene before him. It melted into a stream of liquid, black as ink. That was the true form of the spirit within the haunted mirror. The real chef, after witnessing the horrific sight, showed a clear expression of fear. These ghosts, or spirits, or whatever they are we certain it will be sealed within the mirror forever? Swan replied hesitantly. Well, there's no 100% guarantee. We need to research it further. Bilong spoke up again, proposing a solution that no one seemed to want. Then let's destroy it. We won't know if we can kill it. Until we try, who knows when that monster will escape the mirror and continue to wreak havoc? For humanity, of course. What else? Good heavens, Burang. That's a soul, not a monster. I don't care what kind of demon it is. If it harms humanity, then it's a monster. Without another word, Burang aimed his spear directly at the mirror. SDO quickly intervened. Wait. SDO's eyes were filled with a desperate plea. Do you really want to stop this person? Helpless, Swan could only utter a stunned yes, because at that moment, someone else suddenly appeared, standing directly in front of the mirror, blocking Burang's attack. Before everyone stood a black-haired, tanned version of Burang, standing tall and unmoving. Burang stared at his other self. He raised his spear, pointing it directly at the other Burang, and growled, Why are you black? As if witnessing something beyond his comprehension. Burang gritted his teeth, his whole body trembling with rage. Swan calmly began to explain. It was the soul of this magical mirror that reflected the true portrait hidden deep within you. How can this be? She covered her mouth in astonishment, gasping in horror. Impossible. SDO stood beside her, anxiously thinking to himself. John Bairang absolutely despises having her true identity revealed. Even the members of the research team only know her as John. Just then, Bairang frowned, her eyes sharp, radiating determination. She brandished the sharp spear in her hand, as if to attack the AI. Fortunately, SDO reacted in time, shouting, Ma Bian. Ma Bian instantly drew his sword and rushed forward, intercepting Bairang's incoming spear. The two seemed evenly matched, sword and spear clashing, creating piercing clangs. Ma Bian smirked slyly, his voice laced with innuendo. There's a mysterious force behind all of this. Have you ever considered killing your own ally? Gripping her spear tightly, Bairang's entire body trembled uncontrollably. She lowered her head, whispering like the wind. "No one must ever know." She stammered in a panic. I used to be her. I survived that place." Mubayan looked towards the black-haired soul, asking, "Jet black hair, tan skin. Are you from the east?" Burong tightened her grip on the spear, anxiety lacing her voice. "I should have destroyed that monster from the very beginning. Then things wouldn't have come to this." Then she abruptly spun around, facing those behind her, and yelled in anguish, "It's all your fault. All of you." Estio felt a surge of unease for Burong, sensing the fear that consumed her. Swan, standing beside him, was wary of Bairang's strange behavior. She took a few steps back, hesitantly asking, Why did Burong do that?" Estio reacted immediately, turning to Swan with a stern voice. "Forget everything you witnessed today." Swan let out a confused, "Huh?" The boy began to use his special ability, hypnotizing everyone around him. "Today, the only thing you're allowed to see is the esteemed chef, who has transformed into the spirit of the magic mirror. Erase the image of the girl with the mysterious black hair from your minds." Estio's eyes suddenly flashed brightly, followed by a command to erase a crucial memory. "You were never here today." Finishing his command, he gently lulled them into a deep, peaceful sleep. Immediately, a wave of drowsiness washed over Swan, causing her to lose her balance. She collapsed. Not only Swan, but the chef and her two companions also collapsed onto the floor, falling into a deep slumber. Estio softly called out, "John Bairang." Bairang was consumed by sheer terror, as his earth-shattering secret was exposed before everyone. He roared in fury, "Don't call me by that name. You, an unrelated outsider. How do you know about Bairang? Is now fast asleep." Esther gently comforts her. "Don't worry, they won't remember seeing you." Burong asks, bewildered, "How can I trust you?" Her eyes scan the room, landing on a communication device. She immediately questions, "There's a remote communication device here. Someone must be watching us through that stone." Esto firmly states, "That's not a problem." He places a hand on his chest, making a solemn vow, showing his sincerity. "If I deceive you, you can come find me and in me anytime." Hearing this, Burong lowers her spear. Silence hangs in the air for a moment. Burong lowers her head, voicing the question that's been troubling her. "The first time we met, you read my mind, didn't you? Not just my name, but also my hometown and the reason I dyed my hair." The more she spoke, the more certain Burong became of her suspicions. "You know everything, so you erased everyone's memories, didn't you?" "Estio, answer me honestly." Burong pressed him. "Why are you silent? Why won't you say anything?" The spear in Bairang's hand suddenly transformed into a brilliant flash of light and vanished into thin air. She spoke to Estio, her tone like she was talking to herself, lost in thought. "You found out my secret. You could tell others or use it to threaten me." Estio stepped closer to Burong, speaking to her with sincerity. "I have no intention of doing that." The girl hung her head, her voice choked with emotion. "Then why?" "I'm asking you why," instead of giving a direct answer. Estio countered with a question of his own. "Do you need a reason not to do something you don't want to do?" Burong couldn't hold back any longer. Tears streamed down her face as she choked out the words. "Just as I thought. I really hate monsters like you." With that, she turned and ran away, not wanting anyone to see the misery on her face. After Burong left, the boy turned back to look at the spirit taking Bairang's form, with its jet black hair flowing behind it. He asked the spirit if it could stop imitating Burong. The spirit seemed confused and cried out in melancholy, "Why? Why does everyone hate me? I haven't gone outside anymore. Haven't caused any more trouble. Haven't hurt anyone." The melancholic spirit began to fade, no longer able to maintain Bairang's shape. It slowly dissolved into a pool of murky, gray liquid, returning to its original form, no longer copying anyone. It wondered in confusion, "If I'm a useless spirit, then why was I even born?" ST sat down beside it, gently comforting it. "Someone will need you. There will definitely be someone." The small spirit asked doubtfully, "Me?" ST affirmed with certainty. "No living being in this world is useless." 1 month later, on a beautiful evening bathed in the golden hues of sunset in a quiet, deserted house within the vibrant, colorful space of the ST headquarters, he spoke up, requesting a mission to the branch in Turkey. Mu, the border guard, placed a hand on Parker's shoulder and asked, "Oh, Turkey? You mean that vast desert region in the south?" A worried expression crossed Parker's face. It's been a long time since we've taken on a mission so far from headquarters. Do you think the higher-ups will approve? Sayo looked up, meeting everyone's gaze, and calmly explained the reason for the trip. Well, the request to transport the Mirror Soul for sealing is actually an extension of the Mirror Soul mission that we accepted earlier. So, even though the Turkish desert is quite far, I still think we should complete it. Uhuru the cactus excitedly exclaimed, "What, the desert in Turkey? What a coincidence. That's my homeland." Nizu, the white-furred monkey, widened his eyes and asked expectantly, "Really? Does that mean we might get to meet Uhuru's family?" The cactus replied with a bright smile, "I can't wait to meet Mother. Let's go." Mu Byong asked curiously, "Do plants have family structures too?" Uhuru explained, "Our concept of lineage isn't the same as humans. I remember my mother, but as for my siblings..." At this point, it burst out laughing. "It's more accurate to say we don't have siblings. There's just me, you, and all of us." Everyone exclaimed in amazement. "That's fascinating." The next day, Kai approached with a worried expression. "I heard you're going to the Turkish desert. The journey there will be arduous." She looked at SDO with anxious eyes. "I want to go with you too, but with the current situation, it's difficult." SDO comforted her. "It's okay." He was about to turn and leave when Kai called out, "Oh, and SDO." She introduced his companion. "This is the support member for this mission, the one who will accompany you both in my place." The person introduced was Bai Rang. She cautiously stepped forward, her eyes meeting Bai Rang's. SDO coldly spoke. "I remember you saying that we would never take a mission together again." Bai Rang hesitantly replied, "I volunteered." She looked anxious, quickly explaining, "I asked Master if I could join the support team for the captain. If you don't want to, just refuse. I'm not participating out of personal desire either." Bai Rang's voice choked. "I need to repay my debt to the guild leader, and..." She spoke firmly. "At least I'll feel more at ease, knowing where the person who holds my secret is." SDO pondered for a moment. Then he frankly, always saying, "I object." SDO explained, "We already have enough members. We don't need any more AIs." He told Byra, "Go back. I won't reveal your secret to any other AI." The girl flew into a rage, yelling, "Shut up. How can I trust such an empty promise?" SDO calmly replied, "Likewise, how can I accept someone who doesn't even trust me and my team?" Confronted like that, Byra gritted her teeth, trying to control her anger. Finally, she hung her head, pondered for a moment, and replied in a dejected tone, "Fine, I was wrong." She remembered the graves, the resting places of the creatures she had killed, and vowed, "I will apologize for causing trouble for your pets and treating them like monsters. Now I understand. The chairman dislikes killing. I will not harm any living being without your permission. I promise." Burong finished speaking, pointing a finger at Styo, making an offer. "Then you must also keep your previous promise." Styo nodded in agreement. "Understood. On the condition that promises are kept seriously, I will accept you as a member of the group. But remember this carefully. Look at my companions. White Monkey, Cactus, Sea Slime, and Parker." Burong paused for a moment, then corrected himself. "They're not pets. They're my teammates. As long as you are a member of this group, they're also your teammates." Bai Rang's eyes widened. His expression slightly flustered. He repeated, "Teammates," seeing that everything had been settled. Kai opened the portal and spoke. "Now hurry up and go before the portal closes." Styo replied seriously, "Yes, that's right." Parker grinned brightly. "We're off." SDO smoothly pulled up her blindfold, revealing sharp eyes. She nodded to Chunon Kai, but worry still lingered on his face. "It won't take long." She reassured him, "I believe you'll do great." And before leaving, she didn't forget to add, "Take care." The group stepped through the shimmering portal. On the other side lay a vast, scorching desert, where only yellow sand and gravel stretched endlessly. Parker suddenly recalled some desert survival knowledge he had once read. He spoke, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I've been thinking, do we need a camel to cross this vast desert?" Mabian casually put his hands in his pockets and countered, "What are you worried about?" He continued, "Doesn't the guild always provide all the necessary equipment for missions?" Parker cleared his throat and replied to Mabian, "Only if we ask. But how can we ask for things we don't even know we need?" Mabian continued to press. "You've done a lot of delivery missions, haven't you? Haven't you ever had a mission in the desert before?" Parker scratched his chin awkwardly, hesitation etched on his face. "Avian wings aren't very effective in this harsh desert environment." He explained further. We can't fly in these swirling sandstorms. It's blinding. Suddenly, his gaze landed on the white monkey, a realization dawning on him. Parker wondered aloud. Now that I think about it, will Nizu be all right traveling with us? Nizu, the white monkey, turned his head, looking at Parker with a puzzled expression. He analyzed, white monkeys usually live in cold mountains. Can he endure traveling under this scorching sun? Ahuru, the cactus, spoke up enthusiastically. I'm fine. Let's go. Nizu raised both hands, signaling that he was fine, and replied, Nizu really hates the heat, but Nizu is half human. Mubian approached, teasing. If it's too hot, why don't you shave some of your fur? Nizu cried out shyly. No way. That's embarrassing. Mubian crossed his arms, lost in thought. Perhaps we should discuss what we need to prepare for this trip. I'm not sure either. Why don't we let Byron speak? I know this might sound unbelievable to Mubian, but Byron said, I've been to the desert many times. This is my 5th time setting foot in Turkey. Mubian seemed skeptical of the young woman's words. He pondered for a moment, then asked, a young lady like you frequents the desert? What do you do there? Byron replied, complete missions. Mubian wanted to clarify his question. What I want to ask is, why do you take on such dangerous missions? At such a young age, aren't you quite strong, even without joining a guild? You could find safe employment somewhere, couldn't you? Mubian's question caught Byron off guard. She hesitated. She turned away, her expression showing discomfort and a reluctance to answer. It doesn't concern you. Mubian turned away with an indifferent expression. Fine, suit yourself. I'm not curious anyway. Bai Lang raised her voice in frustration. Then why ask? On the other side, Parker pulled Stowe away, not wanting to interfere in the argument between the two. We should go find the necessary supplies, Captain. Mubian replied lazily. I'm just bored. Say. He slung an arm around Bai Lang in a friendly manner, while Bai Lang scowled as if forced. Mubian chuckled. You need to learn to open up about yourself, to break down the walls between people. Mubian grinned. You know, it's easy to kill a stranger, but if you understood their circumstances, you might hesitate. Bai Lang frowned, remaining silent. The group approached a small market where necessities were sold amidst the vast desert. After browsing around the shops and doing some shopping, we finally got the signpost. Great, now we have everything we need for the trip, so there's only one thing left to do. He brought his hand to his chin, a thoughtful expression on his face. That's to figure out how to get to Turkey. Styo spoke up, suggesting, I think we'll need camels. At that moment, Burong shared some important information. To reach the Turkish tribal village, he said, we need to find a real astrologer. Styo asked in surprise, an astrologer? Parker then explained to everyone. They're people who make predictions based on the positions of the stars. But to be honest, he hesitated. I think most of them are just frauds. Mubian shook his head, disagreeing with Burong. Besides, astrology is forbidden in Rubraza. The girl then spoke up to explain. That's exactly why I said we need a real one. We don't want to run into a quack, Mubian said, while stroking his chin thoughtfully. So, Byron, can you explain that a little more? Astrology is a type of mystical practice, similar to shamanistic magic, that was widely used in the ancient empire. Styo seems overwhelmed by this new information. He's curious about shamanistic magic. Nizu also seems to have questions. So, it's not magic, but some kind of dark art. Byron sighs, then explains in simpler terms. Anyway, astrologers can read the movements of the stars. So, they are indispensable guides when traveling through the vast desert. With a skilled astrologer, we can even find hidden oases in the vast expanse of sand. Parker innocently asks, can't we just use a map? What? Byron is exasperated by their lack of understanding about the desert. She says in frustration, the magical axis in the Turkish desert is constantly shifting. Therefore, both the map and the magic compass are useless. Parker exclaimed in confusion. What? How does the axis change? Burong continued to explain. Not only that, but there are also illusions, trapping you in a maze of hallucinations. Ferocious monsters, always craving flesh and blood, can lurk in any dark corner. Mubian agreed. That's right. I've also heard that this desert is extremely dangerous. Finally, someone in the group who knows a little something. Burong sighed, his face filled with frustration. Exactly. That's why we need a skilled astrologer. Otherwise, we'll never reach the Turkish village, because no one can read. Why can't we ever? Meanwhile, the rest of the group looked bewildered. Parker cautiously asked, so what should we do now? Burong shared his desert survival tips. The best way is to follow a merchant caravan. This is from my experience. and most merchants traveling between towns hire mercenaries to protect them from monsters and bandits. A look of understanding dawned on Parker's face. Ah, so our plan is to take on a merchant escort mission. Byron nodded in confirmation. Exactly. We'll accompany them on their entire journey, ensuring their safe arrival at their destination. Amidst the bustling marketplace, Mabian voiced his opinion. I'm fully on board with this mission. Parker quickly agreed. I concur. This plan is sound. Stio made the final decision. All right, it's settled then. The group dispersed, weaving through the crowded market in search of merchant caravans needing escorts. Under the scorching sun of the vast desert, the air filled with the cries of vendors and the shouts of those seeking opportunity. They were seasoned mercenaries looking for lucrative contracts. Some were actively seeking a skilled ice mage to bolster their ranks. Mubayan, with sharp eyes, scanned the surroundings, searching for potential targets.